Hello everyone, a warm welcome to you from Forensic Hunt. So today in this video we are going to study about the pug marks. Pug marks are the paw prints of an animal which are also termed as spoor, and the word pug mark is specially attributed to the paw prints of a tiger. So by this video you would be able to know the definition of pug marks, what are the application of taking those pug marks, and what are the different types of pug mark. The different types of pug mark include how you would be able to differentiate the dog pug mark from the feline family, how you would be able to differentiate the leopard pug mark from the tiger, what is the difference in the male pug mark to the female pug mark of a tiger, and if you just saw a pug mark, how you would be able to know whether the given pug mark is derived from the front limb or from the hind limb, or whether is it from the left limb or right limb. So these all are the things which you are going to study by this video. So first of all we will start with the definition. So pug mark are the mark left by the pug, that is by the foot of the wild animal. So pug marks are recorded whenever an animal goes through the jungle over suitable ground. Pug marks can act as an indirect evidence that indicate the presence or absence of an animal. So if you go with the application, if pug marks are analyzed skillfully and honestly, they can provide reliable data of presence of different species in the area of study, population of large cats, sex ratio of large cats, and identification of individual animals. So you can say that a tracker or an investigating officer read the pug marks to gather information about species, sex, age, and size of the animal, as also the direction and speed of the movement. There is a great saying that the greater the skill, the greater the accuracy. This forms the basis for estimating tiger and leopard population. With some basic training and an honest approach, the information contained in the pug mark can easily be recorded through traces and plaster cast for analysis at higher level. Now we are going to study about different types of pug mark. Since most of the soft padded four-toed pug marks seen in the jungle belong to either cat or a dog family, thus it is important to understand their distinctive features. And before going to study about their features, you should be acknowledged with the terminologies linked with the pug mark. So here if you can see this particular pug mark, the lower base, the base of a pug mark is called as pad. So this larger area is called as the pad of the pug mark, and the four marks, which are the marks of the finger, are called as toe mark, and the next four marks, which are the marks of the nails, are called as claw marks. So here you can see the pad, these are the toes, and these are the claws. So the first major difference that is clearly visible is the presence of these claw marks, which are not present in the case of a feline family. So while claw marks are visible in the dog's pug mark, in cats, unless they are walking over a slippery or very steep grounds or startled, claw marks are not visible. So the next difference that you would be able to see through the picture itself is the gap. So here you can see that there is a huge gap between the toes and the pad of the dog, whereas it is not the case with the feline family. So you can say that in dog family, except in case of hyena, the gap between the top of the pad and the two middle toes is distinctly more than what is found in the cats. So this gap is way more than what is present in the family of a feline. So the next difference that you would be able to observe is the ratio of pad from their toe. So in the case of dog, the ratio of pad is comparatively smaller as compared to their toes, whereas in the case of cat, the ratio of pad is way more as compared to their toes. So you can say that toes are comparatively larger in dogs, whereas the pads are comparatively larger in cats. Now we are going to study about the design of a tiger's paw, and as the tiger is from the feline family, that is from the cat family, so its features will resemble from the basic feature which I have just told you, and that includes a pad with 4 toes. But here you can notice that there is also a 5th toe. So this 5th toe, commonly called as dew claw, is placed high on the front limbs only. And this dew claw are retractable, that is, it can come in and out based upon this stimuli, and they used to form as a part of tiger's weaponry, that is, tiger use it as a weapon. Generally the dew claw does not touch the ground. The pad here you can see is having the 3 lobed at the rear end. So these all are the features of a tiger paw. And now if you have to take the measurements, so what you have to do is, there are 2 kind of measurements that are supposed to be taken for every pug mark. One is the length and the other one is the breadth. So the length is called as PML, that is the pug mark length, whereas the breadth is called as pug mark breadth. So how you are going to take the PML, that is the pug mark length? It is the measurement from the tip of the farthest toe. The farthest toe you can see here is this one, to the base of the pad. This is the base of the pad along the line of the walk. And if we talk about the pug mark breadth, that is PMB, it is the measurement between the outer edges of the first and the last toe. So PML and PMB can also be measured by drawing a box touching the extreme ends of the pug marks. So you have to draw a box touching the extreme of all the sides of the pug marks and all the corners angled at 90 degree. So whatever the length of the box would be considered as PML and the breadth of the box would be considered as PMB. If you have to distinguish the difference between a hind limb from the front limb, so how you would be able to distinguish that from the pug mark? So one thing that is very obvious, front paws can be identified from the rear paws as their forward thrust leaves the imprint slightly distorted. And if we talk about the difference in the features of the limb, so the front pugs are larger than the hind pugs, and in a front pug, the forwardmost point of the 2 middle toes are almost at the same level. So as you can see in this picture, the frontmost point of the 2 middle toes is this one, and if we compare the difference, it is actually negligible. So they are almost at same level, whereas in this picture the difference is quite large. So they are not at the same level. So this is the case of a hind limb, whereas if they both are at same level, then it is the case of front pug. So one last difference is based upon the gender, that is, if you get to know that the given paw print is of the male, so in case of a male pug mark, the PMB of the front pug is mostly greater than the PML. That is, you can say that the front pug mark used to be broader as compared to the hind one. So that's a case of a male tiger. Now how you would be able to know whether the given pug mark came from the left limb or from the right limb? So what you have to do is very simple. Just take your hands and fold in the thumbs of both your hands and stretch out the remaining 4 fingers as it is shown in the diagram. In your left hand, you will see the 3rd finger from the left is the longest one. That is, the middle finger is the longest one, and this occurs in the tigers too. That is, in their left limb, the 3rd toe from the left is the farthest one. And if you take your right hand, you will see the 3rd finger from the right is the longest, and this occurs in the tigers too. If you count the toes from the right side and you got the farthest toe at the 3rd point, then you will get to know that this impression comes from the right limb. So if we cut short the whole thing into one line, if the farthest 3rd toe is present from the left side, then it belongs to the left limb, and if it is counted from the right side, then it belongs to the right limb. Now If you want to differentiate the male tiger pug mark from the female tiger pug mark, so there are a number of differences. First of all, I would like to tell you that at the birth, the paw of a male and female are of same size, but by the 3 months, the male has a pad which is about the double the size of the female, which remains throughout the life. Now, if we come with the difference in their features, so if you see this picture here in this slide, so the pug mark of a male is more like a squarish, that is, its PML and PMB is almost at equal level. Whereas in the case of female pug mark, it is more as a rectangular shape, that is, its PML is way more longer than its PMB. So the next difference you would be able to visualize is the shape of their toes. As you can see, the shape of the toe of a male tiger pug mark is more like a round structure, whereas in case of the female, it is more like a elongated. You can memorize in a way that female used to maintain their nails or their fingers and they want them to be very elongated type. So this is also the case with the female animal, thus they have the elongated pug mark and also the elongated toes. Now, one question may arise in your mind is how you would be able to know whether the given pug mark come under the category of a square or whether is it coming under the category of a rectangular. So what you have to do is, first of all, you have to measure the PML and PMB, and once you have those measurements, then you have to know the difference in PML and PMB. If the difference in PML and PMB is not that much, that is, if it is less than 1.5 centimeter, then you can say the shape is square in nature, that is, it derives from the male. And if the difference in PML and PMB is greater than 1.5 centimeter, then you can say that it is of rectangular shape and thus it came from a female. And one last difference that you would be able to visualize through the picture itself, the space between the toes is way more larger in case of males as compared to the females. So 3 differences are there. One is the shape, the square shape is there in case of male, whereas rectangular shape in case of female. The second difference is the elongated toes in case of female, whereas the round toes in case of male. The third difference is the space between the toes, which is larger in case of males as compared to the females. So the next topic which we are going to study is about the walk sequence, that is, how the placement of pugs take place and how does it vary with the speed of the tiger's walk. So the first illustration you can see here is for the normal walk, the second one is for the slow walk, the third one is for the fast walk. So in the first illustration, as you can see that the hind pug marks falls over the front pug mark either fully or partially. So here you can see that, let's say this is the impression of left front pug mark which is overlapped by the left hind pug mark. Likewise, right front pug mark used to be overlapped by the right hind pug mark, and likewise this pattern goes like that. Now if we say that the speed of the tiger is slow, so what happened? Hind pug mark falls behind the front in a slow walk. So here you can see that the hind pug mark will always be imprinted just behind the front pug mark. So they are not overlapping in this case. So the hind one will remain behind, the front one will remain on the front. Now if the speed is high, so the vice versa thing will take place. Hind pug marks falls ahead of the front pug marks during the fast or hurried movement. So here you can see that the hind pug mark will always be placed in front of the front pug mark. So this is the case of a fast movement or fast walk. Now the other measurement that could be taken from the pug marks are like stride length, step length or the straddle length. So first of all, for such kind of measurements, you have to take a walk in which the tiger has moved with a normal speed. So first of all, why are we studying these measurements? Stride measurements helps in distinguish between the tiger with similar size pug mark. That is, the length of the stride helps in distinguishing the pug marks made by the tiger cub from those made by the adult leopard. So first of all, we'll study how to measure those things. Select a walk sequence where the tiger has moved with a normal speed, as I have already told you, and then select the two consecutive hind pug marks for the measurements. Why we are taking the hind one? Because they are not that much distorted as in the case of the front pug marks. Now measure the distance between the hind left to the next hind left or hind right to the next hind right. So you can say that stride length is defined as the distance between the successive ground contact of the same foot. So let's say this is the foot which is placed successively 2 times on the same ground, and you have to take the difference of the same foot from the same point. So let's say if you have taken the topmost point of this pad, so you have to take the topmost point of the next placement of the same foot, and then you have to measure the distance. So this is the distance which is called as stride length. The other measurement is the step length. So the step length is the distance between the successive left and right pug marks that gives the length of a step. And just remember one thing, that the stride is always equal to the twice of the length of a step. So in third measurement is the straddle. So if you take the perpendicular difference between the left and right, so let's say if you have drawn an imaginary line to the left pug mark and one line to the right pug mark, so whatever the difference in both lines would be the straddle length, or you can say the walking base. So these are the measurements that you could take from the pug mark, and the prerequisite of taking these measurements that you must have a consecutive 3-4 steps to take the stride and step length. So the last thing that we are going to cover by this video is the difference in the tiger pug mark from the leopard pug mark. So the one thing that is highly distinguishable from the photograph itself, that if you see the limbs of the tiger, they are way more thicker as compared to the limbs of the leopard. So thus the size also varies, that is, the size of a tiger paw is way more larger as compared to leopard. So based upon size, it is highly distinguishable because the size of a leopard is very smaller as compared to the size of a leopard. But what happens if we are talking about the baby of a tiger, that is tiger cub? So a 3 to 4 month old tiger cub will make a pug mark that can be confused with those made by the leopard because of the similarity in size. So in that case, you have to consider other factors which would be able to distinguish the tiger pug mark from the leopard. So if you have a suspicion whether the given pug mark is from the tiger cub or is it from the leopard, the first thing that you could be able to observe, the track of the mother tigress will invariably occur alongside those of her cub, as tiger cubs of that age do not move independently. The next point, which is very evident from the picture itself, is if you see the pug mark of a leopard, it is very compact in shape, whereas if you just see the pug mark of a tiger, it is more splayed out. The pad and toes are loosely bound, whereas in the case of leopard, the pad and toes are held close together. The next difference that you would be able to visualize from the picture is when compared, a leopard toe print are smaller and narrower than those of a tiger cub. You can see here they are very narrow and smaller. So the last difference based upon which you would be able to tell whether the given pug mark is of the tiger's cub or is it of an adult leopard is based upon the stride length. One point I would like to tell you here, the more the height or the length of a animal is, the larger would be the stride length. So if we compare the height of a tiger cub with an adult leopard, so it is very obvious that the height of the leopard would be way more, and thus the stride length would also be the larger in case of leopard. So first of all, what you have to do is you have to measure the PML of the given pug mark, that is the pug mark length. So once you have taken the measurement, the next thing what you have to do is you have to take the measurement of the stride. So the stride length of a tiger cub is about 10 times to its PML, whereas in the case of adult leopard, the stride length is 13 to 14 times to its PML. So let's assume if the PML of the given pug mark is 1 centimeter, So the stride length in case of tiger cub would be 10 centimeter, but in case of leopard it would be around 13 to 14 centimeter. The last thing that you need to remember is about the measurements. So based upon these measurements you would be able to narrow down your search, that is you would be able to tell whether there are chances of these prints to be in the category of a lesser cat or an adult leopard or smaller leopard, or is it an adult tiger or a tiger cub. So if we talk about the feline family, so all the family that belongs to the lesser cats have a PML of less than 6 centimeter. But if it exceeds to 1 centimeter, that is 5 to 7 centimeter, belongs to the leopard's cub. Now the next level after this is of the adult leopard, that is if the PML is of 7 to 9.5 centimeter, then there are chances that the given pugmark would be of an adult leopard. And this is the same size which would be present in the case of tiger cub, which we have studied in the previous slide, that the tiger cub and the adult leopard used to have almost a similar size. Now the next level after the tiger cub would be of the adult tiger. So the PML of it would be around 9 to 17 centimeter. So I hope this video have cleared your doubts regarding the pugmarks and their measurements. And if you have liked this video, then please subscribe our channel. Thank you.